Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. A late start, an 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time start after a two-day hiatus. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by the folks at Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Each day that goes by brings us one day closer to the first accumulating snow event of the year. And there is plenty of rock salt there. It's hard to find, and prices are high, but Omni has the lowest prices in town on rock salt, Pelado, Mag ice pellets and flakes, and any of the great snow melting products that are out there, plus much more for your wintertime arsenal. They're at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, 631-756-1125, and the website OmniTrueValue.com. Wholesale holiday lighting by Giannini. We're getting one day closer to the holidays here. Your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs. You might want a Santa countdown clock or Santa himself on your front lawn, the three snowmen standing on each other's shoulders, and of course, the elf on a shelf. And you can get all of this and more, whether you want your home decorated or maybe you would have this as a business and you're decorating other people's homes and you need stuff. Let them know. They're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York. And their telephone number is 631-957-5106. And the website is liholidaylighting.com. Hello there. You sound
Hello.
how like I feel right now.
I do.
Well, I'm a little.
I
I'm just a smidge run
I've been talking.
down.
I've been talking for the last hour and a half. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Um, yeah. So anyway, just to sort of explain, I had to take the last 2 days off because I had to drive to Mississippi. My mom, who is 87, had to get a pacemaker about 3 years ago. She decided to do it now. so, um, so I went there. It's amazing. It's a 1 hour procedure. You're basically in and out. It's the only invasive thing they do is that they go through your arm. It's just really, and the pacemaker is very, very small, very, very tiny, and they put it in there, and they monitor you remotely, so, on your phone, so you can see what your heart is doing. So it's
Oh, is there anything? Is there anything in this world left that we don't monitor on our phones?
no, there really isn't. So yeah, no, it's amazing. But yeah, they know everything you're doing, everyone you're talking to, everything you're buying, everything you're selling, everything you're wearing or not wearing, depending on your position in life. But anyhow, that's where I was. My mom is fine. In fact, she's. It was the best thing that they could have done. So uh, it's all good. So let's start off the night, Joe. The chairman, Scott Briller, because tonight is Joe and Joe Appreciation Day. So he has banged super chat. So has Johnny Quest. Thank you both for the kind words. Um, it's nice to hear people say what the things they say. It's hard to repeat them. I don't want to sound, self-centered and conceited. And Paul Roman appreciates us too. Also hitting super chat tonight. So thank you, gentlemen, very much. Most appreciated on this Joe and Joe Appreciation Day. So you beat me to the 20s, Joe. You beat me to the 20s.
What do you mean?
Well, you're low this morning.
Oh, Milo here in Putnam Valley was 30 degrees. We did not get to the 20. However, I did tell now you see, my wife Renata has on our driveway 5 or 6. They look like palm trees, but they're called spike plants in
Right.
these humongous um, vases or whatever containers. And yesterday afternoon, I had to take our hand truck and put it underneath each one, roll it into. We have a 2-car garage, And one side of our garage now has all of these spike plants. I had to roll my car out. My car had to spend, my poor SUV had to spend the night in the freezing cold last night
Oh,
out in
poor
a nice
thing.
warm drum. And we had also to bring in the hibiscus plant last night as well.
Not the
And I told her,
hibiscus. Not the
yeah, the hibiscus.
hibiscus.
And I said to her not, I said, you know, it looks like we're going to have to live with this for a few days because it looks like it's going to be cold, even colder perhaps tonight, tomorrow night, and on Saturday night
Right.
before we get into a nice warming trend next week. But these next 3 nights are going to be El Frigito.
Yeah, the days may actually see the temperatures rebound a little bit. Um, in the next few days, probably get back into the 50s and maybe even push it to the middle and upper 50s on Sunday, depending on cloud cover. But yeah, with clear skies and light winds, I mean, you just really have ideal radiational cooling conditions. It looks like, except for the warmest urban areas, everybody pretty much got down cold enough to produce a frost, and most places got below 32, and a lot of places this morning away from the coast were down in the 20s. So the only thing that puts might put a lid on how low temperatures get would be cloud cover, and there are high clouds around tonight from this first wave that's going by. By the way, we should point out too, for the folks along the southeast coast of the U.S., with these waves coming out and with the way the high is going to be oriented, they're going to have they already have it, but it's going to be persistent right through the weekend, a rather significant onshore flow, and there will be coastal flooding going on probably in the coastal Carolinas and down to coastal Georgia over the next several days. In fact, they already have coastal flood advisories up, and even coastal flood watches up there. So coastal flooding could wind up being an issue here. Are we going into a new moon soon? Is it this week?
Today was new moon.
Ah,
Today was new moon.
so we got peak
And in
tides this
fact,
weekend, correct?
correct. In fact, the moon was very close. It's near perigee, so it is. As you'd imagine, we always have at full and new moon astronomically higher than normal tides, but this is more potent or more robust because the moon is rather close. In fact, they make a big deal, they being the mainstream media, when the moon is at full phase and when it's at its closest point, perigee, they call it the super moon. My question is, what do you call the moon when it's at new phase? You can't see a new moon because it's in alignment with the sun, more or
Right.
less. You can't see it, but yet it's just as close now as it was during those super moons that we've had in the past. And even though you can't see it, as you mentioned, Joe, over the next few days, you're going to see the effects of that in terms of much higher than normal tides along coastal locations, especially near to those offshore storm systems down in the Carolinas, for example.
Yeah, just a notation here. Jason Schaefer, thank you, Jason, for hitting Super Chat tonight, wishing us a happy anniversary on Joe and Joe Appreciation Day. And William Uber, who's been with us from day one, by the way, and also hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you, and thanks everybody that have hit the tip jar. It's really nice, and you know what? It does help to pay the rent. So it's a good thing. We don't have to sell ourselves out in the streets, because then for sure we'd both starve to death.
Actually, we're about 9 days away from the day when in 2019 our TV careers
I knew you were going to say this. Go on.
came to a crashing end. And actually, to tell you the truth, it was supposed to be November 15th, Friday the 15th of November, but our dear friends over at Altice, um, they I think were the ones who were responsible for coercing or convincing Verizon to drop FiOS 1 News and to take on News 12. And by doing that, once that was done, they said to Verizon, "Well, now that you have News 12, there's no reason for you to have um, Verizon Fios News, right?" And Verizon said, um, "Let's see. Yeah, we don't need to have two news reports,
Well,
two
they don't.
news channels.
They really
Yeah,
don't.
so I guess we'll get rid of what they should have said was, I guess we'll get rid of News 12. But no, they said, yeah, I guess we'll get rid of New Fios 1, which they did. But during that week, I'm going to show you how TV corporate people work. That week, our final week, November
They
11th
work.
through the 5th, how they don't work. This is how the game that they play. November 11th through the 15th, it was supposed to be on Optimum, the Altice channel, formerly Cablevision. Um, you of course have News 12, but on Verizon you also had News 12, and where we worked, Verizon Fios One News, and we were supposed to end our run at the end of that week, November 15th, Friday. On November the 12th, Tuesday, we were all called into a meeting and said, tomorrow's our last day. I said, wait a minute, we were supposed to be ending our stretch on Friday. And they said, well, they're not happy. They're, I guess, being Altice or maybe Verizon
They were
of
afraid.
having both
Right. They
both of
were.
us both of us on the same provider at the
Right.
same time. So they more or less eliminated us 2 days early.
Well,
So we left.
they were afraid we were going to say something on the air.
What were we going to say, Joe?
Of course, nothing.
We obviously couldn't. We couldn't say. You know, when I left News 12, true story. When I left News 12, this was on December 23rd of 2016. My last day, I was called into the office of the assistant news director, sits me down and says, I presume you're going to say goodbye tonight to your viewers, your News 12 viewers. And I said, yes, I'd like to do that. He said, I need to see your what you plan to say in advance so that I can look at it and clear it. And I said, well, why? He said, I want to make sure that you don't tell anybody where you're going, because I was immediately after that, I was going the following week to Verizon Fios One, News 12's competitor.
Right.
And I was not allowed to say that on the air. I was allowed to say goodbye, and it's been lots of fun for 21 years, and I wish all of you well, but I was not supposed to say, and you can see me starting next week.
Right. Well,
Verizon
I could kind of understand that.
But Joe, it was my last day. If I had said that I'm going to Fios One News, what were they going to do to me? Fire me?
Well, of course, I know.
They couldn't do a damn thing. But I played it straight.
Oh, I know, because you're a class act,
goodbye.
and yeah, I get it. Frank Riccio hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Frank, and Michael McGuire hitting super chat. Most appreciated from both of you. You're all very kind. We love doing the show, and we're all very kind. You're all very kind. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody on the chat board, especially those who have hit super chats. I did see a couple of people though saying, "Sorry, I don't have anything to contribute, but I still love the show." We love you too. I mean, don't have to. We're not here holding out a cup and with sunglasses and pencils in the cup. We don't do that for this. We're not doing this for money.
You mean
it's
like
nice
this?
to get it.
I don't have any pencils. I got pens somewhere.
Here.
Alms for the poor. Alms for the poor.
Alms for the poor. Yeah. We're not selling apples. We're doing this because we love weather. We love talking about it. We still get charged up about weather and a lot of other things. And we want to share it. And since we're not allowed anymore to share it with people who watch TV, because we were told, among other things, you're too old. You're too old. You can't do this anymore. We want, youth be served. Joe, my favorite episode of The Twilight Zone. How many of you out there are Twilight Zone fans? How many of you, I'm sure everybody has seen at least one episode of Twilight Zone. The episode that I love the most, and one which in recent years I can empathize with is the episode Changing of the Guard, where there's a teacher at a Vermont school. He's taught the sons, the grandsons, even the great grandsons, grandchildren of his original students going back into the early part of the 20th century. And now, after all of those years of teaching and doing what he loves, he's called into the headmaster's office and told, you got to go. It's time for you to go. Even though he was still no different in teaching and probably even better than he was, 30, 40, 50 years ago, he was being told, it's time for you to go. We're not renewing your contract. And he feels lousy, as he would obviously, because he wanted to keep going. And he goes home and he's actually going to try to kill himself. But then he decides he's going to go one last time to his beloved schoolroom. And he goes into the schoolroom, and all of a sudden, the ghosts of all of his former students from many years ago appear to tell him how much they learned from him, how much they enjoyed him, and how much they owed to him for their lives from what they learned. And it's such I almost start crying when I see that episode. And, after what happened to the two of us, where they said, thanks, but no thanks. We don't need you guys anymore. We've
Right.
got youth. We've
Yeah,
got young people coming
that's
in.
that's
You know,
that episode is a variation of the movie Goodbye, Mr. Chips,
yeah,
which starred Robert Donat and Greer Garson back in the late
right,
1930s, and then was redone in the 60s with Peter O'Toole in the part. So yeah, it's the
right.
same concept. And you know
Right.
what?
But it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good that every night, well, most every night, and on Sunday mornings, that we have a place to go to, and we love babbling about weather, and we don't have somebody in our ear telling us, wrap it up, wrap it,
Well,
because
Joe,
the show was heavy.
you do have what's her name upstairs.
Well, she's not upstairs tonight. She's at the German club, but
Oh, thank God.
but she gets into it too. She is. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but Renata is a meteorologist. Her degree is in atmospheric science, and we met at a private weather office back in the early '80s. And after a couple of years, I got enough courage to ask her out, and then one thing led to another, and then we ended up getting married, and
Right.
here we are now. So
If that happened today, if that happened today, you would have asked her out, and you would have been in jail.
All right, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. You take it from here.
Christina Pedia, thank you for hitting super chat. Most appreciated. I think I was here when you were driving back up because I saw your posts on Discord. I think I was still here when you were driving back up. It was really a fast trip. I mean, I went on Tuesday and came back last night. So it was literally an overnight, and I think that's why.
Right.
It's all actually from here to where my sister is in Tupelo, Mississippi. It's 6 hours from my house. I stopped at my daughter's. My brother picked me up, so from my daughter's house, it's 4 hours, and then we drove back. My brother drove back last night. We stopped and ate at Cracker Barrel. Oh, that reminds me. Oh my God. I am so outraged, so incredibly outraged. I don't know, Christina Pedia, if you stopped off at Cracker Barrel on your drive. So, Cracker Barrel, uh, it's what it's a American style country, type of food, country food, and it's fine. And to me, I'd rather eat there than go to McDonald's or God, if I went to Arby's again after what it did to my stomach on Tuesday. But
Been there many times.
we'll discuss that another time. So usually around the holidays, they have their pies, and you can buy a whole pie. And when I walked in, they were all decorated for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and I thought, you know what, I should pick up an apple pie. Well, I go to where the pies are, and they had chocolate pecan pie, which was great. I love I've had variations of chocolate pecan pie, including Kentucky bluegrass pie, which is it's chocolate pecan pie with bourbon in it, and it's delicious. And they had that without the bourbon, but instead of an apple pie, they had an apple strudel pie.
Wow.
So I asked, and they said, I asked about it. I said, I just want to get a plain. Not the apple strudel pie was fine, but I asked at the counter, and they said they discontinued the apple pie, and they went over to this apple strudel pie. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! This is Cracker Barrel. Their apple pies are great. The crusts are so buttery. I mean, I could eat just the crust, and forget the apples. I just eat the crust. I'm okay. So, like, if the corporate people at Cracker Barrel are hearing me, watching this show, which we know they are, they're glued to their telephones right now. I just want you to know that I love your apple pie. Bring it back. So apparently, if you find a Cracker Barrel there are some Cracker Barrels that still have the apple pies, but once they run out, they're not getting any more. So if you happen to stumble on it in a Cracker Barrel, and they have the apple pie there, the plain apple pie, grab it because they won't have it anymore. So like I said, it was I was very disappointed. I really was. Frank Riccio hitting super chat tonight. I don't know if I said this already, but if I did, I'll say it again. Frank Riccio hitting super chat tonight. And Michael McGuire. That's right. I did say Frank and Michael. And Christina Pedia. And also Joe's Weather Channel, which is not me. It's another Joe that watches, and he goes by Joe's Weather Channel. And it's been 2 years. No, it's been more than 2 years. Thank you. I'm glad you have enjoyed every second of it, and God willing, it'll be many more years until that we'll do this, unless one of us crumbles apart, at some point along the way. By the way, Ixnay on the Amcray, okay, Inada Ray is back. It's back. Just so you know. How would you do Rayo in pig Latin? It's Ao Ray.
Wait a minute. She's watching. I can hear you. Hello, upstairs. Are you listening to me? I can't hear. I'm doing Sergeant Carter.
Oh.
Well, you know what? Her attention is being. Oh, okay.
Isn't he?
I was going to say. Her attention.
Isn't he dreamy?
Our daughter is here tonight, so when my daughter is here, she's got somebody to talk to upstairs. But she's talking to my daughter and watching Joe and Joe. So what else can I say about that?
Renata, I don't know what an apple. I mean, it's an apple. It looks like an apple. It actually looks like a Dutch apple pie, and it's got. I don't know. It looks like it's got like some sort of caramel the way they have it on there, and I mean, it was good. I tasted some. Also had some pecans in it too, which was nice. I mean, it was good, and I'm not make I don't want to make it sound like it's terrible. No, it's good pie, but I just for me, I just love a plain apple pie. Okay, that's made with different kinds of apples, no sugar on top. Okay, there's no, whatever's in the recipe that goes into the pie is one thing, but I won't buy store-bought apple pies because if you hold them up to the light, you can see the sugar crystals that they put up on the top, and that's just wrong. That's just wrong. And I won't buy a store-bought apple pie. I want to taste the apples on the inside. So anyway, that's enough of my theory of cooking apple pies. Let's look at the satellite, shall we? So do a little bit of weather here tonight.
I'm just gonna say, people who have been on now for 25 minutes and they're saying, why don't they talk about something like weather, which is what this channel is about? But quite frankly, folks, there ain't much to talk about in terms of weather other than mentioning that, here in the Northeast, that we're going to probably miss out on a lot of activity that stays just off our shorelines. But yeah, let's take a look at the the satellite picture, Mr.
Well, we got
Chiaffi.
we got one wave already going by, and you can already see the energy producing clouds across the Gulf states from wave number 2. And if you just sort of follow the clouds along, those two waves are going to pass by to the south and east. So as when each one goes by, you wind up pushing up some high clouds, which is what we have on the satellite this evening. You see the high clouds have pushed up into northern New England, in fact. But the precip is not getting here. The precip's in the brighter white clouds that are offshore. And then there's the second wave. Now, if you look at the outline of the clouds, you kind of see what I was talking about in terms of the onshore flow. There's going to be a high parked in Pennsylvania. These waves are going to go out right underneath the high, and you're going to have the ocean basically being funneled down the coast from the coastal Carolinas right down into that bend from South Carolina, Georgia, and into northern Florida. And I mean, this onshore flow actually got underway yesterday in that area, and it's going to be there today, tomorrow, Saturday, and into Sunday. And of course, as you mentioned, Joe, we got the new moon, so the peak tides will probably be what, Friday, Saturday? More than likely.
Usually it's like a day. Well, yeah, usually about a day or two after. So Friday and Saturday, yeah, we'll probably be seeing the highest tide because the tides lag behind the moon by about a day or two, depending upon the topography of where you happen to be living.
Right.
Wherever you happen to be. So.
Now the cool high is moderating, but the nights are, of course, getting longer, and we're going to have, unless the high clouds don't get out of the way in time, but these should. I mean, they'll probably be gone a little after midnight, so skies will clear out, and then you're going to see the temperatures, and where they have already gone clear, temperatures are going to be dropping. And then the only issue that I had for the weekend, Joe, is the fact that the second wave moves up the coast on Sunday, and that probably means that we might see high clouds from that system on Sunday. I don't think we're going to see any rain from either system. Definitely not the first one. I really think we won't see anything from the second one. And it's quite possible that we may have to wait till the end of next week before we get another drop of rain around here.
Absolutely. In fact, regarding my wife's spike plants, which are residing now in the garage, I'm strongly urging that we keep them there at least through Saturday night. Sunday, we'll probably see temperatures still in the 30s Sunday night, but I think mid to upper 30s. And then come Monday and right on through much, if not all of next week, low to mid 40s by night. And during the day, hey, low to mid 60s, 60, 62, dare I say maybe 65, which is pretty darn good for the middle part. My goodness, we're already heading for the middle of November. Where is this month going, Joe?
Yeah, we'll warm up a little. We'll warm up a little bit, but it's not going to get crazy warm. It's not like we're getting a full-blown ridge building all the way up the east coast of southern Canada. This is just going to be, we're going to go a little bit above average to compensate a bit for the below average temperatures that we have now. On the radar tonight, there's actually precip aloft offshore. Nothing's touching the coastline. It's just east of the Jersey coast, south of Long Island. A couple of showers also close to the coast of the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula, but those are moving on out. And then down in the Gulf of Mexico, you've got some showers and even some thunderstorms off the coast of the west coast of Florida, from Tampa down to about Port Charlotte and points southward. Those are moving northeastward, and that's going to be the second wave that is going to come up. Now, SPC, no organized severe weather today or Saturday or Sunday into next week, but there is a marginal risk of severe weather for tomorrow in the state of Florida, mostly in the southern half of the peninsula down to the Keys, because they're going to have a low that's going to go by to their north. So that area is going to be in the warm sector. So would not be a shocker if you wind up seeing a couple of severe thunderstorms pop up in that zone. And WPC, Joe, the 7-day rainfall forecast from just about to me. I mean, this is a pretty, you don't see this too often in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, but much of Maine, and then going down the Appalachians into Northeast Georgia, and then coming up to eastern North Carolina, and then up the entire coastway all the way up into Maine. No precip being forecast for the next 7 days. There's coastal precip in North Carolina and South Carolina, mainly on the order of about an inch to an inch and a half at most, 2, right along the immediate coast. And then you can see some heavy precip there coming into northeast Florida of several inches. Again, the bigger story here, I think, is going to be the onshore flow and the higher than normal tides and the coastal flooding that will likely occur. It could be significant in some places. And you also see some rainfall in the middle Mississippi Valley up to the lower lakes on the order of 3/4 of an inch to about an inch, inch and a half. And the northern Rockies, a lot of precip there. Some of that's going to be snow. And in the Pacific Northwest, in fact, again, draw a line pretty much from San Francisco to Reno, and from there northward is where your rain is, and it's going to be particularly heavy in coastal Oregon and Washington State, several to many inches over the next 7 days. They seem to be getting, it seems like it's been raining. It's actually been raining there for the better part of the last 2 weeks now, with the way things have been going. So nice dry weather here. So the biggest problem we have is trying to figure out cloud cover. The teleconnections, the NAO is negative, gets to the neutral line, and actually you got more members seem to be going positive, but there's a lot. You could see some of them go one standard deviation, standard and a half, a deviation and a half positive, and then you got a bunch of them that go negative. So there's a big spread at the end of the forecast period, which on this map is November 16th. And on the Pacific North America Index, same thing. You got a bit of a spread here. So the models are going to probably be somewhat volatile until they figure out, which is going to be correct. Are we going to see more troughing in the east with more of a negative NAO, or less troughing in the east in the longer term with a neutralish NAO? And then the PNA is mostly neutral to positive. In fact, you even have a couple of members starting to push up toward that one standard deviation up. So, I mean, the PNA suggests that there should be at least some troughing in the east in the longer term. So, still got a long way to go, a lot of work to do here in terms of what's happening in the atmosphere. I'll bring up the upper air charts, and we'll take a look at those. And hold on, let's put the height anomaly. We'll put the heights up there so you can see the jet stream. And of course, here's your trough in the east, and you'll notice you got these short waves that are, on the southern part of that trough that are creating these waves that are moving off the southeast coast. We've got this, general flow from the northwest coming out of northern Canada, which explains the cold. Bit of ridging up through the western plains and Rockies and into northwest Canada, while there's a trough sitting somewhere from Alaska down between 140 west and 160 west out in the Pacific. At least that's how it starts off. And of course, the first wave goes out, and here's the second wave, that cutoff low that's over Florida. And because of the fact that there's nothing in the northern stream that's coming down and phasing with this to lift it up the coast, it gets squashed out underneath us, and it gets kicked out pretty much to the east. And now we go into next week where we get a bit of a ridge to build in the eastern part of the United States. As that upper low pulls out, a little ridge pops up, only to get flattened out over time. And then by the time we get to next weekend, there's troughing that comes back into the eastern part of the United States. And actually, Joe, the models are showing a rather vigorous trough for next weekend from the western lakes to the Carolinas. It's a nice looking negatively tilted trough here that develops. So perhaps when we do finally get a precipitation event around here, it could be something substantial. And once that pulls out, there's still generally troughing in the eastern part of the United States. The ridge in the west is a bit on the flattish side. in the longer term, but that's going to change as we go forward. But I don't see a warmish pattern here. Okay, other than when the ridge pops up early next week and the temperatures bounce up a little bit, I'm not seeing us. I don't see us transitioning into some warmer pattern that goes on for uh, for weeks at a time. The upper air pattern still seems to be in a general mode of wanting to put troughs in the east and ridges in the west.
Yeah, and don't forget that last November was, I think, one of, if not the warmest November that we've had around here. And this November, while it may run for a little while, above normal by not as you said, crazy warm, but enough to make it pleasant out there. It certainly does not look like what we had last year, where again it was way above the norm for November. Now, incidentally, now that we have October behind us, courtesy of Rob Friedelwitz, who is a very into uh, forensic guy in terms of weather. He points out that after an unprecedented rainfall in July, August.
What you were talking about, we took a the internet here went down. I came right back up, but I think the folks missed a lot of what you said. So if you would just go over that one more time, it would be most appreciated.
All right. Well, as I was quoting Rob Friedowitz, who is very much into forensic meteorology of New York City and of Central Park, and has lots of interesting stuff. He's got a
Oh, good
which
lord!
he calls the Starry Eye. Excuse me?
No,
Are we
I'm
having
sorry.
are we having
No,
trouble here?
I was. It looked like we were about to get another signal hit, but it didn't happen. Go ahead,
Oh,
talk.
okay. So uh, Rob points out that after an unprecedented rainfall in July, August, and September, each of those months had more than 10 inches of rain. It looked like we had turned the corner in October. The first half of the month of October was the driest first half of October, going all the way back to October of 2000, 21 years ago. We only picked up in the first 15 days at Central Park 0.15 inches of rain. So you say to yourself, well, it looks like October is going to be a much drier month. However, everything turned around in the final days of the month, coming to abrupt end in the last week of October. 4.71 inches of rain was measured. It was, in fact, the wettest last week of October on record at Central Park, and 8 of the last 9 days of October had measurable rainfall. Much of the week's rain was produced by a nor'easter. You remember this one on the 25th and 26th of October that dumped at Central Park,
Right.
3.69 inches of rain. So we one again has to wonder, Joe, after such a wet summer and after suddenly a wet end of October, what does November have in store for us? You've pointed out that we may be seeing some interesting changes in the coming, let's say, next couple of weeks. And with that upper trough going negative, possibly pushing a lot of moisture our way. So keep that in the back of your mind over the next 7 days as it turns nice and dry, and eventually by next week, unseasonably mild, because we may have to pay for it maybe by the latter part
Well,
of this month.
we seem to be doing things this year in big ways. It just we're pushing envelopes here on as far as certainly as far as rainfall is concerned. And if you take a look here on the GFS, of course, there's the first wave goes out. The high still doesn't move out. So here we are on Friday into Saturday. And again, this is what I was talking about with the Carolinas, because you've got the onshore flow in the low city south of Jacksonville come Saturday afternoon. And then it moves on out to the northeast. Actually, some pretty heavy precip into eastern North Carolina. That rain clips almost identical to what's happening with this first wave, touches the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula, and then it passes offshore and moves on out to the east. And then finally, once that happens, that allows the high to drop down to the south, and then you start to get into a more western or maybe a southwest flow. There's a little front that goes by here on Tuesday night. It doesn't have much weather with it, so there just probably will be some clouds. Then we get a high that's building up along the St. Lawrence River. excuse me, for the end of next week. And you can see the energy that's coming out of the north that comes into California on Tuesday. There's a storm that moves into Northern California. The whole low comes in and produces heavy rains from San Francisco northward and heavy snows up in the Sierra Nevadas, and then eventually heavy snow up into Oregon and Idaho. That low winds up going up into the Dakotas and dies out. A new low forms there in Kansas, and you get a wave that goes up into the Great Lakes. And now, of course, you got this negatively tilted trough for next weekend, and here comes a low that comes out of the eastern Gulf to the Florida Panhandle and runs right up the coast or just inland of the coast. And Joe, it kind of looks like what we just went through. It's like there's sort of this giant arm that not the nor'easter, but the second system, where the trough wound up opening up and going by to our west with the low going there, and you get this giant arm of rain that lifts up northward. And there's it's about an 8-hour period here from Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning with heavy rains going by and going into New England. And you can see snow there back on the northwest side in the eastern lakes, and maybe some lake effect snows later next Sunday and Sunday night in parts of upstate New York. It's not a whole lot of cold air with this. So you see the patches of rain in there. And of course, it's still only, this is what, November 14th we're talking about. So it's not unusual to see weather systems that aren't producing all snow in the Northeast or back in the Great Lakes this time of year. But it's a start. And there you can see it's a 971 low by the time it gets up into Canada. That looks like windy and cold here, if that's the case, or certainly colder for Sunday. And this is not this weekend, but we're talking next weekend, assuming that the models are correct with that kind of a deep trough. And going into the longer range, who knows? I saw the chairman asked a question here with another super chat hit, which is most appreciated, Scott. But I kind of lost that part of the chat board. But I remember what your question was with regards to the lack of snow.
I have it.
You do? Okay. The lack of snow cover in Canada,
yes.
and whether that delays. My own opinion is that the lack of snow cover is more of an issue for what I would call quality cold air. Not having the snow cover there is a problem to get some quality cold air to build. But I don't think that stops a snowstorm from making, because the atmosphere is cooling as it is. It's just that maybe the air might take a week or two longer. I don't know that it has any big impact on delaying. But I think it does have some impact in terms of the temperatures, because if you don't have cold air building up over deep snow cover, well, just exactly what are you going to get in terms of the quality of that cold air when it comes on down? And it might not be very much.
And you don't really, Joe, as you are well aware, you could get a significant storm that winds up and can actually manufacture its own cold air, and
which is what I call. I think that's what you're seeing here. This is what I refer to as what I've often referred to as do-it-yourself cold air, where the upper air cyclone deepens and that cold air mixes down, and this is do-it-yourself cold air, and I think that's what you'll be playing with until you can get that snow cover in Canada to build up. And in fact, since we were on the subject, I'll bring back the North America map. Why don't we take a look over the next 16 days? Total snowfall. We don't really care specifically in terms of the numbers, but I just want. This is at least showing snowfall, and particularly in southeastern Canada. By the way, I'm sorry, eastern Canada. Actually, the snowfall in eastern Canada in the next 2 weeks, if the GFS is correct, is fairly substantial. It's in many inches, and also in a strip up through central into northwest Canada, significant snowfall. So this could be made up in a hurry. You get into the right pattern, you can put that snow cover down across North America in a big hurry. And I think, if this were December, I would be, if it was snow lover in December and there's no snow cover in Canada, I would be concerned. And the odd thing, Joe, is that if you look back, and I was reading some pieces that the chairman had sent me with regards to this, but if you look back over the last 10 or 11 years, uh, this year is actually an anomaly because the snow cover growth in Canada in the early part, October and November, has been substantial in most of the last 10 or 12 years. So this is sort of the
Right.
odd year where it doesn't seem to be happening.
And a lot of people, when they think about snow in Canada, they're thinking about the Northwest Territories or the Yukon area. And to tell you the truth, one location in Canada gets hammered most every year with lots and lots and lots of snow is Labrador and Newfoundland. They get a ton of snow from offshore storms, nor'easters. They get a lot. So it's not necessarily that you have to go deep into the interior of Canada to see lots of heavy duty snow. You can go well, not too far from here. You can get to Newfoundland in a rather short interval of time, relatively speaking, even by car or Labrador. Take a car, maybe take a ferry. If you want to see snow, a lot of it, the middle of the winter, you just go up there, and they'll tell you that they get a lot of snow.
Yeah, or you could just even go to Tug Hill because I had a couple people
Yeah.
message me about the fact that there's been some snow up there falling today. I got I just just to bring up the snow cover 30-day animation over North America, and you see how in the last few frames suddenly there is snow in Labrador showing up, and the northernmost part of Canada seeing a little bit of a southern advancement. So I think we need to give it another week to see where this goes. But I'm thinking that we will see it increase. And the snow and ice. This is kind of interesting because this is a bit of a change, but suddenly we're seeing ice cover growth over. It was pretty absent north of Greenland and points east, but the ice cover has actually increased considerably in the last 7 days or so. So that's interesting. Let's see how far back this goes. Actually, this is a 30-day. This is a 30-day ice chart, but we're seeing the ice increasing now on the eastern side, as well as continuing to increase on the western side, and starting to surround the islands there that are between northern Greenland and the mainland of Canada. So the ice growth continues, and we might as well look at Siberia, which has been actually suddenly going gangbusters after a subpar most of the month of October. And this is again a 30-day loop. And now you're seeing how rapidly in the last week or so the snow cover just balloons across Siberia and points southward. Not quite yet into Eastern Europe, but getting there. So a little late with the Siberian snow cover. Usually it's the month of October that the people who pay attention to that sort of stuff put an emphasis on, and it was subpar. But we have years where that indicator, Joe, worked until everybody found out about it around 2014, 15, and then it just kind of went its own way after that. It doesn't seem to be working quite as well. It got like 14 winters in a row correct, and then it just sort of went kablooey, and it doesn't want to cooperate anymore. So, what can you do?
Well, I figure it's time now for us to reveal, or for me to reveal, something which you've known about now for the last several weeks. And in fact, I got a big chuckle. I think it was in a recent Briller Jeopardy where the chairman said that it was for Briller Jeopardy for you. And he said that if you got 8 out of 10 right, you'd get a free trip to Antarctica. And we've been alluding to Antarctica for a good number of days around here at Joe and Joe. But as it turns out, folks, on the chat board, um, I am going to Antarctica at the. It's going to happen at the end, and I'm taking the executive producer with me, Joe. So uh, you're going to be on your own for a while. Although I am going to attempt to possibly do a Joe and Joe from here, not from here, but from the bottom of the world. That would be something really if we can pull that off to do one with you up in Georgia and me down in the land of the ice, so to speak.
Right. Well, we're going to try. We will definitely try to do it, and hopefully we can pull it off. And of course,
I
then
hope so too.
because we will be then we'll be the first weathercasters in probably in the I don't know, I can't say for sure, but in my recollection, I don't know that anybody in the Northeast has ever done a live shot from Antarctica.
I tell you what, I think if we can manage to pull this off, and maybe more than once, that we ought to save those particular shows. And if it comes out all right, maybe we might even knock on the door of the Academy and say, "Hey, you want to consider this for an Emmy?" That might be worthwhile. Let me just quickly uh, explain how this all happened. A few months ago, I'm sitting here by my lonesome doing my normal freelance writing, and I get an email from one of the people at the American Astronomical Society, and he's alluding to a total eclipse of the sun, which is going to go across Antarctica on December the 4th. And he asked, he said, "Are you going?" I said, "What are you, crazy? I'm not going to go. That's Antarctica, for goodness sake." He said, "Well, here's something that may change your mind. There is a cruise line in France, and they are going to have a cruise to Antarctica to see the total eclipse. On board, the cruise, the ship is only going to hold about 200, maybe 250 people. Let's round it off and say 200. 150 of those people are going to be French, and they're going to have as their leader Sergei Brunier, who I guess you could say is kind of like the Carl Sagan of France, well regarded, highly regarded popularizer of astronomy in Europe and in France in particular. He's going to be their guide on this trip. He said, but we got 50 people who speak only English. They don't know anything about French. They don't speak French. Um, so they're going to need somebody to guide them, somebody who knows something about eclipses and astronomy in general. What we're saying is we need, or the cruise line needs, an English speaking science liaison. And he said, if you're interested, we can get you on board that cruise. And I thought about that, and I said, well, uh, is it possible if I can bring my better half with me to keep me company for 2 weeks while I'm on this ship? And they said, sure, fine. And so I would I would never ever be able to afford what they have offered in terms of the flight down. First, we got to go down to South America to Santiago, Chile.
Da
Then after
da
we get to
da da.
da, 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 to Santiago, Chile, we got to go to Santiago, and then from Santiago, we have to fly down to Punta Arenas, Chile. This is at the very bottom of South America. That's where the ship is going to take off from on November 30th. Then we will sail from there into the Weddell Sea. I have done some research, Joe. The Weddell Sea is the freshest, cleanest body of water in the world. And it's covered by ice, but this is like an icebreaker. We're going to sail in. Hopefully, we'll be able to position ourselves in the total eclipse path, see the total eclipse, which is doubtful because the weather down in Antarctica at this time of the year is lousy, but we'll do our best. And then after that, from the 4th of December to the 15th, we're just going to be sailing around Antarctica. And I figure this is going to be great. We'll get a close-up view of, penguins, the wildlife of Antarctica, the calving maybe of icebergs, the look of. We'll have science advisors there who have done this before, and we'll talk about global warming and climate change or whatever like that. I think it's going to be a fabulous, very adventurous trip, and I'm so happy that I was asked. I'm so honored
Oh, it's
that
great.
they thought of me to go down there to do this, and So we'll be down there, and hopefully, if the internet is working, I'd love to do some shows with you down there and
Oh well,
talk
no,
about what we've
if
seen.
you get a signal, we are doing this. Uh,
We are doing
we
this.
are doing this. The Weddell Seal, by the way, the Weddell Seal is a small seal that lives generally under the ice during the wintertime and has to use its teeth to open holes so it's able to breathe. And also to occasionally escape a leopard seal who might want to eat it for lunch, or an orca. But the Weddell
Yeah.
seal actually doesn't have a long lifespan because of the fact that since it's using its teeth to be able to breathe, to carve out the ice to get a hole in there, uh, the that wears down their teeth, and after a while they can't catch any fish and they can't eat. So
And Latex Dreams brings up on the chat board. You're absolutely right, by the way, about the Weddell Sea. And there are the emperor penguins
right.
down there. I've never supposedly the penguins come right up to you. They have no fear of humans. So it's quite possible. And I keep thinking about that cartoon with Playboy the Penguin with Bugs Bunny.
Right.
I'd love to be able to I'd love to bring a little top hat along with me and put one on one of the penguins and take a picture of
Right. The
that.
days are
But
6 months long here. That means I don't have to be back to work until October 1954.
well, December the 8th, and I've worked this out for the cruise company, but on December the 8th, we will have 24 hours of daylight. We're going to go south of the Antarctic Circle, and presumably we will truly be then in the land of the midnight sun. It'll only last for about a day, but for about one day, we'll have perpetual daylight, 24 hours, and then we'll see the daylight increase from Punta Arenas from like 15 or 16 hours all the way to 24 on December the 8th, and then we'll turn around and come back, and the daylight will again shrink. But we'll probably not see very many night sky attractions. But I do want to recognize one thing that was put up on the chat board by somebody on the chat board who asked about um, seasick, being seasick or whatever. I'm trying to find. Oh yeah, Latex Dreams. Latex Dreams says seasick. Well, let me tell you something, Latex and everybody else. This is the part of this expedition which I am not looking forward to. We are going to be traveling not once but twice through the Drake Passage. You could look this up on Wikipedia, or you could look it up somewhere on the online what the Drake Passage is all about. This is the roughest sea, the one that is feared by navigators, mariners, and tourists who have gone through there. It reminds me, Joe. I'll be thinking all through that passage of the wreck of the
The wreck of the Hesperus.
no, not the wreck of the
The
Hesper.
wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Edmund Fitzgerald, or also that scene from The Perfect Storm, where they're going up and they're going down or whatever. Let's put it this way: Fred Mertz would not like to be on this ship when we're going through the Drake Passage, and I am told that during that time they likely will be handing out Dramamine as if it were M&Ms. And the guy from the AAS, the American Astronomical Society, Rick Feinberg, I mentioned this to Rick. I said, but the Drake Passage, he said, hey, look, you feel lousy, you'll feel miserable for a day or two, but look what else you have a chance to see.
Yeah.
One day you may be surrounded by 100,000 penguins. You may see wildlife. Maybe you just might see the eclipse if it's not too cloudy. So it's an intriguing thing. And so Renata and I are going to be going, and like I said, we'll be filing. We hope to be filing reports as if we get any signal, we'll be getting them up to you.
Awesome. We are. This is good. It is going to be great if we can pull this off. So keep your fingers crossed, everybody. Just wanted to just bring up one more chart, and thanks to Flood Weather, who's been feeding me. All right, that didn't work for some reason. All right, hang on one second. Let me see if I can. Okay. Nope, that's not working. Nope, that's not working. All right, hang on, folks.
Technology, Joe.
I know I have the EPO, I want to show everybody the EPO, but we're going to have to do it this way. I was trying to make it bigger, and apparently I can't. I wasn't able to pull it up on the on OBS. So let me try it this way. And here's a look at the East Pacific oscillation, which is like the NAO, except it's in the East Pacific. And you'll see now I can't read the dates. The print is too small, so that's a problem. But this is, I think, every one of these lines is about 2 days worth, and you'll notice that we're going positive again, which would be for early in the middle part of next week, and then it goes negative, a little bit back bounce to neutral, and then it actually goes strongly negative late this month. And that kind of matches up with what I saw in the ensembles yesterday that I wrote about, a long range piece that I wrote yesterday on my weather platform on Patreon. That it looked like the models were getting bullish for a colder second half of the month of November, particularly the last 10 days, if that holds true. So anyway, the EPO is a little more supportive, certainly, as you get toward the latter part of the forecast period in the long range. And the question is, when it gets there, will it stay there? Because of all the teleconnections, as I have said many times, of all the teleconnections, that's the one where you want to pay the most attention to with regards to cold. I'd rather have the NAO not a factor at all. If you've got a negative EPO, you're going to have cold air, and then you can take your chances with storm systems as they go by. So anyhow, just wanted to show that, and a big thanks to Fled Weather for that. And now we can do a little Briller Jeopardy. Are you ready, Mr. Rayo?
Yes, I am.
I'm sure the folks on the chat board will play along. Now, this is a top 10 television shows as ranked by TV Guide. Okay. Now, so this is not necessarily shows that might have been highly rated, but this is their top 10 list, and it also includes stuff that may have not been in prime time. Okay.
Well, you can have a top show and not necessarily be in prime time.
Yeah. Now this is TV Guide's list. I agree
right.
with some. I agree with a couple of the ones that are on the list. I then disagree a little bit with some of the others, but anyhow, these are the top 10 shows according to TV Guide. It comes out of a list of the top 50 shows of all three, and you don't even have to guess the show, Joe. All right, you don't even have to guess the show. You just have to guess the year the show debuted.
Okay.
And if the margin of error of 3 years, and Mr. Briller is generously providing another trip to Antarctica if you can pull this off. Okay. So
let's make believe that I've already gone through this contest and I've won the prize.
Okay. So here we go.
And before you start, one last thing, Joe. I just sent you via Messenger the URL of the biographies of both myself and also Sergei Bernier.
Okay.
So that people can actually see and see more information about this trip. I may not return.
I'm sorry. Did you say you emailed them to me?
I sent them on Facebook Messenger.
All right, I'm gonna get a link that's like 5,000 miles long. So if you email, it'd be better if you emailed it to me.
Okay, I'll do that. And meanwhile, I'll take the first question.
Okay, so I'll start from number 10 at the bottom of the list and go work our way to number 1. So number 10 is the show Bonanza.
I will say, they're actually words. They actually sang the words to that song, I think, in the first episode. And after they did, the producer said,
No.
No. How about 1958?
Oh, very good. 1959.
Lovely.
Okay. No, the next show, the number 9 on this list is da 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 da.
Joe.
Bewitched.
Bewitched. Yes. Bewitched. And I would say that show started. I know it started in black and white. That's the
Yes.
key. A lot of stations still did not have color. Well, NBC did, but CBS and ABC were a bit behind. 1960, 64.
Very good. 1964 is correct.
Lovely.
Next, number 8 is Rockford Files.
Oh God, that's a yeah. Rockford Files. 19. I'll say 1970. 74.
On the nose. On the nose. Number 7 is Playhouse 90.
Well, that goes back to the 50s. 19. I'll say 1950. 55 or 56. I'll say 55.
You should have said 56.
Ah,
You would have hit that one on the nose too. All right, next. Now the next one I don't remember. It was called a show called Invaders.
that probably came out during the era of the Outer Limits or whatever.
Yeah, I have
The
no
Invaders.
recollection of Invaders.
I'll take a wild shot in the dark and say 1963.
You should have said 64 because then you would have been in the margin of error at 67. Okay. Number 5 is your show of shows.
Oh, it's Sid Caesar and
Imogene Coco.
Imogene Coca, and yeah. 1950. God,
1950 is the correct answer. On the nose. Very good, Joe. Number 5 is 1950. Say the secret word and win $100. 1950. Next show.
Really? Oh.
Next one is number 4 is Donahue.
1968.
Close enough. 67. Number 3, Nightline with Ted Koppel.
That began right after the hostage taking in 1979. Probably, I think November of 1979.
1980. But
Nightline?
That's what it said. 1980.
All right. There's a disclaimer there. They started in 79 as something else.
Right, and then they probably titled it
Nightline.
Okay.
Yes.
1980. That was number 3. Number 2. This is Today on NBC.
That was with Dave Garroway. And 19. What year? It was in the early 1950s. I'll say 1951.
1952 for the Today Show. And number 1 on this list is Late Show with David Letterman.
Oh, well, that started in 1981, I think.
1982. Two. When I worked at NBC at the time on the Today Show, I used to see occasionally I would see David Letterman walking the halls.
Wow.
He always had this when he was like this somber look to him. When he was in the halls going wherever he was going, being himself. Now, sometimes you have this illusion that when you see this idea that when you see people on television, they're like that in real life. Well, they're not. You know, they're not their character that you see on TV. And then when they are real people, they do go to the bathroom like everybody else. So anyhow,
and you know why I said 81? He had a brief in 1980 or 81. He had a daytime show.
daytime. That's when I used to see him before he went to nights. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
and before he went to CBS. This is CBS. It can't be Sirius Network.
There's a very funny clip that you can see on YouTube where Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show is talking to Letterman, sitting in the couch. He says, "So what's going to do? What's new? What's going on?" And this is after he found out he was not getting the Tonight Show, that it was going to go to Jay Leno. And Letterman says, "Oh, nothing much. Just drop the tape over to CBS, and that's it." You know.
Exactly. All right. So for those of you, here's the link on the chat board, folks. If you want some more information on what Joe Rayo is doing on this trip to Antarctica, and yes, we will, if we can manage it, we will be doing it live. So I will be, at the mercy of Joe's schedule at that point. So we could punch this show up live at any time.
You realize, of course, you should realize that 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, which we will be on, is going to be equivalent to 9:30 where I am on the ship, because they observe chilly summer time. And so we will be, so where I will be 9:30 as opposed to 7:30 for you.
All right. Well, you know what? We'll talk about this some more, and we will definitely figure this one out. So
yes.
Anyway, okay. So thank you everybody. For those of you who hit super chat, thank you so much. Most appreciated on this Joe and Joe Appreciation Day. To the chairman for all the things he does with the Briller Jeopardy and all the information that he gets to me. It's always interesting and fascinating, and happy to share it with everybody else. And of course, thanks to everybody on the chat board, because and everybody who watches this show, because without you, well, then it would be a little boring, because we would know who we're talking to, and it's nice to know that we have an audience and we know the people that we're talking to, and that's a big plus. And thank you for being loyal and being here every night. I got nothing planned tomorrow, so if you want to do a show tomorrow night, I'm good with it.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that, because we were off 2 days, weren't we?
Yeah, that's up to you.
We could do a show tomorrow night. I don't care.
We'll do it tomorrow night at 7:30. So special Friday Joe and Joe Weather Show tomorrow night at 7:30 to make up for the last 2 days when we didn't have a Joe and Joe Weather Show. So I am going to go to bed, because I've actually, I've been feeling run down all day and I need a good night's sleep. So I'm going straight to bed. JJ's already there, fast asleep. So that's where I'm headed.
Okay.
Nighty night,
All right.
everybody.
Well, nighty night, folks.